Thank you. Now it's coming online. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here. I'm first year coming to Investor Toomase conference, and being on stage is very great. Today, what we're going to talk about in this short talk is about energy. And 2022 has been a very crazy year and challenging in many aspects, and including energy. Energy prices have climbed very rapidly. We all know about it. Consumers and businesses, of course, aren't too happy about it. But energy companies, it's a different case. What can we expect going forward? And are the stocks of energy companies going to be profitable investments? That is what we want to find out during our talk. So let's start by looking at the current 2023. How will the energy market look like? And Darius, could you please give us your outlook for this year?
Okay, in 2022 we had a crazy year. That was a year of very high volatility and changing prices. In 2023, I would say we will see much less volatility, lower level of the energy prices, especially in electricity. Green transition will accelerate on the other hand, and we will start first signs of struggling of small and medium focused renewable developers.
Okay, so the large ones will be the better.
We have to understand that the environment is changing. Before it was quite a safe business protected by some kind of subsidies and guaranteed offtake on one hand. On another hand, it was a very low interest rate environment. That was changing quite rapidly, so we will see less and less or zero subsidies, and all developed assets have to provide an energy on the merchant basis or striking long-term PPAs, etc. While interest rates are rising, inflation of components is taking place, and all that was offset by the very high rise of prices in the market. So a lot of people still kind of feel optimistic, because they do expect that such level of prices will remain for the long time. My message is that it will not, and in a year or two we will see the shrinking of prices, not entirely during this year, but it will shrink quite significantly. And therefore, the business model of successful investors into green generation will change. So from the pure focused developers into more smart and integrated green energy companies, green energy developers.
Okay, great, thank you. January started with some very low prices, which we haven't seen in a long time in Baltic electricity markets, right? So I'm already starting to think maybe I should switch back from fixed contracts. Aavo, what do you expect from electricity prices this year and maybe a few years going forward?
Yeah, thanks very much. First of all, thank you for all organizers having me here. So it's a great pleasure. You know, to be honest, I don't know. I don't have that crystal ball in my hand to say that what electricity price will be. It depends on many things. I mean, you just mentioned this January, also at Christmas. So one component in energy prices is the weather. So that it depends. We see a soft winter. We see you know, floodings in Estonia, also in Latvia. So this is one thing. We have had a lot of wind in December, also in January. So this is certainly one of the reasons we've seen lower prices. But all in all, I think that I don't want to give kind of any predictions here, but certainly this year's prices we don't expect to fall to a level we were like 2 years ago. I mean, when we saw 40 euro prices or somewhere about. So certainly they will remain on a higher level. I agree. This year we also will see that the new green generation will come to market, will come to online. So this is a good news, which actually I expect helps us to not to see those high peak prices we saw, for instance, last August. So all in all, I think that we all have to be patient. We have to push more to have more green generation in the longer run. So this is one of the reasons, not the main reason, but certainly one of the reasons why we see the high prices at the moment is that not only in Estonia, but in all the countries across or around the Baltic Sea, is that we are just lacking, there is not enough green generation. So, but now seeing what is happening in all the countries, I'm really optimistic, for a long run.
So the last year has shown us that we are not so independent markets, right? So you have to do more to be more independent, and for me it shows that this has really hit the turn to more, let's say, green energy production. Darius, will the success story of green turn continue, or do you see some threats or for the coming years where it can turn around?
It depends on whom. Some people will see the threats, and I already listed. Inflation on components, interest rates, shrinking merchant prices. On the other hand, there is so huge potential in this region and intrinsic need to develop green energy where companies like Ignitis Group and Enefit Green will gain a lot. We will see a lot of investments into the green assets, not only into conventional ones, but the need to have more flexibility assets. Green flexibility assets will rise. And also people will focus much more into long-term contracts and how to secure long-term offtake.
Yeah, and will this, you already, I think, answered my next question previously about that this green energy should help push down the prices as well, especially I think in summer when solar will be a lot more present than previously. And if we see spikes, and will your energy companies be able to capture this higher price if there is a higher price or even lower? And maybe Aavo, you can tell us about measures that you're taking so that you're not so reliable on so huge fluctuations.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, we as our business is mostly wind, so and then wind is a non-dispatchable source of energy, right? So if there is a wind, usually there are not high power prices. Vice versa, if there is a lot of wind, the prices are usually lower. But the thing is that when Enefit Green is making investments, new investment decisions, so for each of a project we usually hedge our power volume for around 50 or 60% for 5 or 10 years, just to lock down our cash flow in the longer run. And another 40–50% will remain merchant to market, so that this is a volume we'll get the price what we see in Nord Pool, for instance. But one thing I just want to highlight here is that this green transition is not happening just like that. It is something, and it's not only energy companies. That it is all of us. It's transition. What is happening together with customers, so that the customers are actually behind those investments. We see that the customers are ready to also hedge their or lock their power prices for a longer run, in order to feel themselves more comfortable and secure, and then this helps us as energy companies to make new investments. So, as Darius said, that the new investments today don't need any subsidies at all. So,
and maybe just quickly to add, what kind of multiplier we should look at your green energy production going forward compared to now?
multiplier. The good multiplier is our growth story. So that we have set out that by 2026 we expect to be 4 times larger company than we were in, let's say, 2 years ago. So just multiply our capacities.
Okay, we'll do that. Darius, and what multiplier should we look at for Ignitis Group?
Before multipliers, maybe I can add a bit on the last question, where to put in electricity and how to keep the volatility. That is the difference of the business model. We invest and we maintain not only one wind assets or only intermittent assets, but we invest into flexibility assets as well. So right now we are finalizing procurement of hydro pump storage in Kärmas, which will be finished in 2025. When we will implement that final unit, it's still not yet understood even in Lithuania what kind of potential it is in that project. After implementation of 5th unit, we will have 1 gigawatt of hydro flexibility, which ranges from 0 to 1 gigawatt. It will be completely flexible. So it's a huge power machine and huge integrator, which is complementing renewable capacity and adding additional value to the pipeline. On top of that, as I said, we had a kind of smart approach, integrated approach. We are accelerating and looking into the areas how to hybridize our assets, how to combine in the same connection, but where we currently have wind to add the solar and later on batteries, after that Power-to-X, etc. So we can extract much more value all the time, depending on the situation, if it's wind blowing or it's sun shining or it's high prices on the market or the low prices in the market. On the multipliers, in 2002, we silently doubled our portfolio. We had a target for 2030 that we will reach 4 gigawatts of installed green generation capacity. We already have over 5 in our portfolio. We raised twice from 2.6 to 5 gigawatts. We tripled our construction and development portfolio from 1.3 gigawatts to 3.9 gigawatts. And we are always looking where the value is. We increased our greenfield portfolio 11 times, from 170 megawatts, and today we have 1.8 gigawatts. And in greenfield, you have the most value because you don't lose those to the early stage developers. So combined with that, combined with flexibility, I will not tell you multiplier, but the biggest potential in this region, definitely it's in Ignitis Group to grow.
Okay, I hear you. Then maybe just moving on to the point of stock investor. Both of your stocks are, of course, quoted in Baltics exchanges. That's why you're here, and that's why we're talking about it. And Darius, I looked at the average price target of Ignitis Group from analysts is 26.85. It's almost 40% higher than the current price. What would be your short pitch, or let's say a bunch of arguments why probably not an investment recommendation, but why Ignitis Group would be a great addition to our portfolios?
My pitch will be specific for Estonian investors, because I think that in Estonia we still lack awareness and right understanding what Ignitis Group is. People usually, when they talk about Ignitis Group, they think like ST Energy, which is completely untrue. We are more like next generation Enefit Green, just 5 times bigger, equity-wise, and on steroids, with the future-proof model to generate new value.
I hope you wrote it down, right? Next generation on steroids.
Yes, and just currently, already today, 52% of EBITDA is in green generation. 33% is in regulated networks, which is kind of lifesaver during bad times, source of the resilience and the dividend cash flow. And only 15% is in retail, wholesale, and flexible generation. So we are a completely new company with a huge portfolio in the green pipeline. So we have protection from the value fall in our dividend policy because it's based on the fixed amount with minimal annual growth. So therefore, it's like a safe belt during the turbulent times. And when you look at the portfolio and the business model, you see that the growth potential is enormous. That's my pitch. It's the best investment in Baltic area in the energy for myself, and I really believe that for Estonians as well.
Okay, a very loud statement. Thank you. Aavo, I see your face is changing from time to time. Well,
I'm a very emotional person, so I'm an open book, so you can read it.
Yes, I know that your price target for your company is also a bit higher than the current price, and maybe you can also give us, let's say, a short pitch why we should keep on to the Enefit Green stock. I suppose most of the audience here has already Enefit Green in their portfolios, and maybe to add or not sell it, and not to go away to Ignit's group.
Okay, so first of all,
of course, there's always place for both.
I will not go there, but compared to Ignitis, we are 100% purely renewable company, but which is our core business. But one thing, I mean, I hope that all the shareholders of Enefit Green are happy with the stock result or performance of last year. But you know, when Enefit Green became listed, our message, we had a very clear message that we see a lot of opportunities for growth. We said that we want to be a 2.3 times larger company in terms of the capacity by the end of 25. That was in October 2021. In the last spring, we revised our strategy and we said that no, I mean, we see more opportunities in the market, knowing our organization, knowing our people, knowing their commitment and passion. We said that no, I mean, we see that by the end of 26, we want to grow 4 times. And I'm really happy to see that as of today, our current operational and under construction capacity is more than 1 gigawatt. So that is more than 2 times compared to operational capacity. And by the end of this year, we expect to make investment decision for another 450 megawatts. So making us by the end of 23, 1.5 gigawatt. So that we are nicely in a way what we have promised to our investors. And so far we have made, the total capex we have made already is 740 million euros. And we have said that our aim is to invest 1.5 billion euros in total during this period of time. So I think that we are nicely on the way, and then still hope that all 60,000 investors will have a trust in us, also not today, but also in the future.
Great, thank you. And maybe to end our talk on a bit more cautious side, do you see any, or what would be the most dangerous risks that could stand in our way to reach our targets? Extremely low prices, high commodity prices, deficits. What's in your view is the highest risks? Maybe Darius, we can start with you, and we'll finish with Aavo.
I don't see significant business risks for our business model because we have some kind of, as I said, internal hedge on one hand, on another hand, very strong portfolio, and regionally wise, we have very strong presence and competence, and it's a huge potential for growth inside the Baltic states and a bit in Poland. Just in offshore, in Baltic states, across 3 Baltic states, there is a potential capacity of 25 gigawatts of offshore capacity. okay, it's a maximum, but it can produce 100 terawatt hours of electricity. Combined with the onshore, it can reach, the Baltic production in few decades can reach from 100 to even 300 terawatt hours. For your knowledge, currently 3 Baltic states consume totally 25. So it's up to 10 times more we can produce than the current consumption. And there is a huge demand in the Central Europe, especially in Germany, for electricity and synthetic fuels. So therefore, for several decades, we will have this source of growth combined with right infrastructure to enable export, to invest and to replenish our investments via asset rotation and to create a new value. So therefore, we are in the right position. Short term, some overinvestment risks are between micro, small and mid-sized focused investors, especially in one technology like solar or just wind in the small scale, etc. But if you have combined approach and if you have long-term approach, it's a blue ocean rather than red ocean already.
So Baltic's energy production powerhouse for Europe, right?
Yes.
Potential in the future.
Yes, actually, North Sea and Baltic Sea will be 2 major powerhouses to feed in energy for the Central Europe in the future, and that's definitely will happen. Just the question is who will take that value or who will capture that value.
We should, of course. Aavo, do you have something to add on risk side and?
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say certainly it may be a risk, but the thing is that what I'm worried about is that how the regulatory environment will change, because you know, of course, I understand the politicians and the concerns about helping people, because really the power prices have been extremely high for consumers. But there is always a possibility that in order to help the consumers, they can just turn the existing market upside down, and that would also lead to less investments into renewables. That Darius was saying about the offshore, absolutely agree that this is our future, but it is also true that investments into offshore, at least in the Baltics, cannot be done without having foreign investors here. So that we don't have experience how to build offshore wind farms. So that this is one thing, and then secondly, you know, now the politicians have been, or even on a European Commission level, they have set out this 180 price cap mechanism that different countries, you know, should implement their own systems. We as Enefit Green, we see that at least Finland, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, and Poland, we do not have any major impact on our business so far. But we don't know. I mean, there are talks about European energy reform or market design changes in the future. So this is something I'm a bit, you know, worried of. But that I still think that the politicians may have also common sense and will not turn a market upside down.
2 small remarks. For example, we in Ignitis Group, we have competence in offshore. CEO of Ignitis Group, Ignitis Renewable, already developed 9 gigawatts of offshore capacity in his life. So, but it will depend on the partnerships. But for politicians, and sooner or later, and I see that the common understanding is taking place, that only one sustainable way to provide lowest cost or most competitive energy prices in this region for consumers and for businesses is to create overcapacity, is to be export oriented. If you and look at, and so therefore politicians can and will support more and more export oriented infrastructure, export oriented strategies to facilitate huge internal growth of renewables. across all 3 Baltic states. It's a true belief of me, and it will happen quite soon.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Darius, and thank you, Aavo.
So, don't go anywhere yet. We have tons of questions. It's like a shareholder meeting. There's so many questions, I can't ask them all. I will ask some of them, and then I will just ask you to do briefly. But I hope you will stay here, at least during the breaks, and everybody in the audience have a unique opportunity to ask the questions that we couldn't ask on the stage. But first of all, shareholders of Enefit Green, please raise your hand. And the same question to shareholders of Ignitis. Yeah, good represented. Yeah. So we take a few questions which you can just answer yes or no or briefly. So one question is about nuclear plants. Is it something you are considering taking into your portfolios?
We ourselves know. We see, as I said, enormous capacity in onshore and offshore in our region. After 2035, some countries may consider some small nuclear reactors, but currently it's complete PowerPoint and promise, which does not have business rationale in our countries, I think.
No.
No way. So, and another thing, I think this is quite relevant for Estonian investors. It's for you, Darius. How many of those regulative risks do you see regarding Lithuanian politics, controlled prices and so on?
For example, I do not know all the details what happened in Estonia in retail regulation, because we don't have significant presence in retail for electricity in Estonia. But for example, in Lithuania, government did not intervene into the business in any sense. The approach was just to subsidize end-user tariffs straight from the budget, offsetting some part of the price increase. So no intervention whatsoever, because the understanding of the state is that the most needed resource is to invest into new capacity, into new generation, because it's the way how the country is building energy independence and lowering prices down in the sustainable way. So therefore, we, on the retail side, we don't see any threats or minuses. On the network side, it's very stable framework, and after a few fine-tunes, right now we have very clear visibility for the future on the network side. We are shrinking our gas portfolio very significantly since we are entering much more investments into green generation. So therefore, we are not very much exposed, I would say, to the regulatory risk, while we having this integrated business model, because we have offtake, flexibility, and generation combined in some kind of natural hedge inside the group.
Thank you. And last, yes or no questions. Do you own each other's shares?
Beg pardon?
Do you have Ignitis shares and you do have Enefit Green shares?
Not yet.
Sorry, not yet.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.